And welcome back to the channel where we talk about only good comics. I'm Brant, and this is Friday First. This is that series where we talk about those brand new number one issues, new character debuts, new story arcs, and the like. And this is for books that are coming out on March 5th, 2025. First books of March of this year. It is a bit of a smaller week than we've been getting for the past couple of weeks, which has had a lot of books. But this week in general is just, it seems to be a smaller week, and definitely a smaller week for the first. I think I have 7 books to talk about in the first category. I only have 6 other non-first books to talk about at the end as well. But I am going to start with 4 recaps from last week's books. So there is still a healthy amount of books to talk about. It's just smaller than we have been getting for the past few weeks. So we are going to talk about those in just a minute. Did want to throw this out there one more time. I kind of mentioned it handedly last week, that I am going to be starting up some content for my wrestling channel, video game related. So if you are a wrestling fan, if you like the WWE 2K games, you might want to check that out. Content will be going up there next week. I'll have a link in the description below to that channel. It is, I think you can get to it. I think I still have the URL. Let me actually check the URL to make sure that it still works before I send you to a URL that does not work. That does not work. So it is Aftershock Wrestling Entertainment. It is the Awcast, and I will drop a link to that channel in the description below. But I've been working on some stuff in my spare time over the past few months whenever I could, to start something up that's just a little side fun thing. So again, if you're video game and wrestling fan, check that out. Otherwise, completely ignore this altogether, and let's talk about some comics. So the first book that I'm going to talk about from last week's recaps is from Mad Cave, and this is Pop Kill issue 1. This is written by Jimmy Palmiotti and Dave Johnson. So this is, if you remember last week, or in case you weren't here for last week or you don't know about this book, it's basically these two soda companies. So basically, if you had Pepsi and Coke, and they were both separately owned by two brothers who were at corporate war with each other, but that corporate war involved hiring assassins and corporate espionage and all this kind of stuff, to defeat the competition. And meanwhile, there are other soda company players in this corporate game that I think are going to come to play in future issues as well. So really interesting concept to the story, and that's kind of what drew me in. And then, if you're a fan of Palmiotti's writing, you might kind of like this as well. So going into this, there are like scientific breakthroughs for prolonging certain aspects of the soda. I don't want to give it away. That kind of lead to a further plot. It starts out with one brother's kind of hired guns to sabotage the other company owned by his brother. Kind of sabotage their company and their products and all this stuff, and it causes like these news stories to come out, articles, and kind of obviously gives them setbacks in their business and cost them billions of dollars and all this stuff because they didn't find the damage in time, and all this kind of thing. So the one side is Fizz Pop. I think it's Fizz Pop and Popso Cola. So Popso, I'm assuming, is like the Pepsi company, and Fizz Pop or whatever it is like the Coke company, right? So that, like, the Coke company, they've got this one dude that they hire, and he's kind of not the most moral guy. I mean, I guess if you're a hired assassin, you can't be a moral guy, but he's very depraved in this book, and they kind of go over the top to show you exactly how depraved in various ways that this guy is, and he has no problem kind of doing anything for money, but he also really loves women. So there's that aspect of it. So it's a little bit of a Mad Men kind of character, very charming, but very much trouble. And also he likes killing people for money. So there's that. And then, like I said, they stumble upon this breakthrough between the companies. He's hired to kind of find these secrets, and now this thing is out there that they have to thwart. But now other players are popping up, and um, there's kind of hidden devices to monitor things that kind of are going to get this guy in trouble by the end of this and everything. So it's just this crazy off the wall concept, but a really interesting read and a really violent read. So if you kind of like that, if you like these kind of stories, I'm not explaining it well because I'm trying to be vague and I'm getting tongue tied trying to not give things away in it, but I actually liked it. If you can set aside any kind of compunctions about, you know, that kind of content, if that is your thing, if you like this stuff, or if you have problems with that but you like the sound of the story, and you can put that aside, this might be an interesting read for you. I really enjoyed it. I'll be back for issue 2. I thought it was a fun read. I love the concept, so there you go. Speaking of gore and crazy off the wall concepts, next up from Dark Horse, we have Jump Scare issue 1. This is written by Cullen Bunn, and this is part of the Mortal Beyond universe, which I can't remember if I tried that book or if I read it at all. I really don't remember, but this is set in that same universe, and this is following a girl named Allie who becomes this kind of anti-hero named Jump Scare. And basically the premise of this one is she's like raised in a really religious home, and she wants really nothing to do with that. She's just a horror movie junkie, and her parents kind of, compare her to her sister, are really hard on her and that kind of thing, and it eventually pushes her away. But part of the reason that she goes away is because this elder god, which that's what's going on in this universe, these elder gods and monsters and supernatural creatures and everything have been unleashed in the world, and some of them have stuck around. So one of them finds her and kind of empowers her, and she becomes this superhero of sorts that hunts monsters and supernatural threats and that kind of thing by pulling any weapon from any horror movie she's ever seen out of thin air. And so she could pull out, I mean, obviously they use their own, so they don't, trademark, copyright infringement and all that stuff, but she could use, hypothetically, Michael Myers' knife or whatever, that kind of thing. So she pulls out all these different things like weed whackers and chainsaws and all kinds of weapons from these horror movies, and it details like what year they came out, what the weapon is, all this kind of stuff. And she's also got enhanced abilities, and it's crazy because like teenagers, young people, they love her. The news is kind of in the middle on it, and the government is against her, and her parents are like powerful now and all this stuff. And anyway, her sister ends up going missing, and she's got to come to her rescue and all this stuff. So I thought actually this was a really good start. Really drew me into the story, into the character especially, and it was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. I don't know if she'll watch this, and I'll probably tell her later, but I would recommend this to my friend Cap just because she's, a big horror movie fan as well, and I think this would be up her alley in that way. So yeah, I like this issue, and I'm going to come back for the next one on this one too. So it was a good week for First so far. Next up, we have Radiant Black issue number 31. This is the start of a brand new arc. This is the first issue post the Catalyst War. This takes place 5 months after the Catalyst War. Nathan has moved on. Marshall has been Radiant Black. He's been handling every little task from rescuing cats, not successfully, or not well, to trying to lift a giant robot arm from the road. And there's like this sequence where he keeps trying to figure out what to do with this robot arm throughout the issue, which I thought was kind of comical. And it's typical Marshall. And all the while we see like him trying to go on dating apps in the process of doing all these heroic things, and he thinks he hits it off with this girl. She doesn't feel the same way, and you can kind of see how things are affecting him emotionally and personally, and how he's burying them down. And it's just really subtle, but those nuances are there, and it's really clever, really handled well in this book. But by the end of this, he discovers that people know about exactly what he did not think that they knew about and wanted them to know about, which was the fact that there was another timeline and another dimension, and that these versions of them, especially the version of him, did awful things in their timeline, and that's kind of been weighing on him. And now that is out in the world, and that has changed his whole perspective on things. And now, because of that other timeline and everything that happened, this new player has jumped on the board, and he is taking people out that are holdovers from that timeline. So, really interesting story. We boiled it back down to character work here, and we're really focused in on Marshall and his world, his supporting cast, which involves another Radiant, which I thought was fun. And yeah, and then this new character that is potentially going to hunt him down too. Who knows? We'll see how that plays out. But I really strong start to this new arc of this book, which is one of my favorites on the stand, and I can't wait to read more of this book. And finally, the last number one I'm going to talk about from last week is Red Hulk issue number 1, part of One World Under Doom. And this centers around Thunderbolt Ross, who is only one of a bunch of intelligent people that Doctor Doom has trapped within his dungeon. He keeps them in cells, and he's basically forcing them to be a war room think tank for him. And these include other characters, which I'm not going to spoil all the characters down there, but they're characters that you are going to be familiar with. Some of them, others are just random, world leaders, mafia leaders, that kind of thing. Just anybody that he could trap that would be able to help him kind of strategize how to take over the world, right? And they've been trapped down there for months, and it's crazy the way this takes place. Thunderbolt Ross, he's his hair's growing out, he's got a long beard, he's kind of forgotten who he is. He's just kind of resigned himself to, hey, I'm a prisoner now, and this is what I do. And he can't access the Red Hulk because he's got a inhibitor collar on, which keeps the Hulk locked inside of him. So he can't even do that. And the same for other powered people that are down there as well. And the plot is he finds out a way to escape and to gather these people together to help them escape. And by the end of the issue, we're off and running towards that plot. So very interesting concept to it. And I actually really like the pacing of this. I like the inner monologue from Thunderbolt Ross. I don't usually like the character, but I thought in this way, it actually made him more heroic, even though he was helping Doom. Obviously all these guys, and girls, all these people were trapped and kind of forced, against their will to do this. And, most of them kind of gave in, but still it was an interesting read, and it surprised me a little bit. I liked it more than I thought I would. I don't know, depending on how long this series is, I don't remember if it's an ongoing or if it's a mini series, maxi series, what it is. Depending on how long it goes on, I don't know long term if that is enough, just this escape plan. What happens after the escape, right? So I don't know where exactly it's going, but I'm curious. I'm intrigued by it now, and I want to see what happens now that they try to escape. Are they successful? Do they get out? Do they cause a problem for Doom, or are they just captured and used again? I don't know, but I want to know. So I'm going to keep reading this one as well. So 4 books, 4 firsts, and I enjoyed all of them, which is, most of the books I talk about on this show, I either think I might like or I will enjoy, and I'll talk about them. But, usually even in these recaps and 4 brand new books, 3 new books and a new arc, the odds of me liking all of them as well as I did, kind of low. But I really enjoyed all 4 of these books, and I'm excited to read the next issue of all of them. So that's a win for last week. All right, so with that said, we're going to get into this week's books. First up, our one and only honorable mention. This one's from Dark Horse. This is Sister Imperator number 1. and this is spinning off of the band Ghost. So if you're a fan of the band Ghost and you are kind of you want to read a story about the band that goes in a supernatural route and talks about this origin story of this character in this band, this one is for you. I am not familiar with this band at all. I don't know anything about it. The cover caught my attention, so I wanted to shout it out at the very least, let you know that it is coming out. Sounds interesting. So there you go, Sister Imperator, #1 from Dark Horse. Next up, we have from Mad Cave, Blade Forger, issue #1. In this book, this resource is discovered that basically sends the entire world into this world war over control over of this resource. And ultimately, once all this dust is settled, the wars have settled down. They've decided that one emperor is going to rule over the world to keep this resource safe or whatever, and that they formed this treaty that kind of controls exploration of this resource and all this stuff. So basically they end up with an emperor that has to be a blade forger, which is a mystical swordsman who has to fight in this tournament of the five rings every year, or every 5 years, excuse me, to keep control of the world or whatever. So I love like fantasy stuff, and this is like real world that kind of spun into a fantasy environment and a fantasy kind of setup. And Mad Cave does some really cool stuff. So this has kind of caught my attention in that way. Sounds kind of interesting. I am going to give this one a potentially good, and I'm going to check it out and we'll see what it's all about. This one is written by Roy Miranda and Inaki Miranda, who also does the art. I'm not familiar, but they did a project called We Live, and yeah, so this is a $4.99 book, and I'm gonna check it out. Potentially good for me. Next up is Everybody's Fears Realized. Marvel and Disney. What if Mickey and friends became the Avengers? Ducks Guardians and Loki. All this good stuff. I mean, it's just fun. It's having fun with this concept of Mickey Mouse, Goofy, Donald Duck, etc., being Avengers. What can you say? There's not really much more to say about it. I'm going to give it a possibly good because you never know. And yeah, if this sounds like a fun time to you, go for it. If not, cool. I don't know if I'm going to pick this up, but I had to mention it. Next up, also from Marvel, we have Star Wars Jedi Knights, issue 1. This is the first issue, as it says right there, in the prequel era. Marvel's first series focusing on the Guardians of Peace and Justice in the Galaxy. We have Mace Windu on the cover there, I believe. And so, yeah, we've got Qui-Gon Jinn in this as well, with a villain hunting him down. You've got Yoda and Mace alongside a brand new Jedi. So lots of cool stuff going on there. I'm assuming this is part of like this new era of Star Wars comics. Like they're kind of starting fresh, right? So I might check this one out just to see what's going on with this, and check out Mace Windu. This is written by Mark Guggenheim with art by Matabek Musabikov. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. But for this one, I'm going to give it a potentially good as well. Next, staying on that Marvel train, we've got Web of Spider-Verse, New Blood, issue 1. This is the War of the Multiverse. This is the Spider-Verse versus the Venomverse. I'm not really invested in this, so I don't know. I'm kind of Spider-Versed out, right? Like the movies are great, but in comic form, I've just kind of been let down by the past couple. So, and I didn't read Venomverse. I don't have any interest in Venomverse. So this one is one of those that I'm like, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm gonna read a little bit of this, but they're let's see, blah blah blah. Spider-Man and his spider compatriots across the Spider-Verse are the guardians of the web of life and destiny. They are heading for a confrontation with the other arachnid multiverse of the symbiote variety. Again, Venomverse versus Spider-Verse. And they meet 3 new Spider-Versers to see if they have what it takes to fight in the war. We've got I don't know. It says, could it be Count Parker, Spider Prowler, or maybe Spider Hulk? Find out inside. So we don't know exactly who they are. It's written by Matt Groom, which is the only reason that, and actually it has several writers. Um, Matt Groom, Chris Eliopoulos, Greg Pak, and Jordan Morris. So I like some of Matt Groom's writing. I like some of Chris's writing. I like a lot of Greg's writing as well. So that's the only thing that kind of piques my interest a little bit here, is that the you have solid writers writing in this world. I'm not invested in this story yet. I don't know if I'm going to try this out yet, but I am more hopeful because of the writers involved with this, if that makes sense. But anyway, I'm going to give it a possibly good, because there is a chance, there's always a chance with any new book that it could, you know, exceed expectations, right? And it could be a really good story. You just don't know. I don't want to write off anything like that. So possibly good, and we'll see what happens with it. Last one from Marvel, we've got Doctor Strange of Asgard issue 1. And this one I've actually been, not, I won't say excited about it, but I have been anticipating this book, because I want to know what it's all about. I want to know what happens with it. The one thing I will say that does give me a little pause is that this is written by Derek Landy, and that's no shade on Derek Landy, but Derek Landy writes Infinity Watch, and Infinity Watch kind of went off the rails for me a little bit. It just went in a direction that I haven't been a fan of it. So I don't know if this is for me, and that's my only kind of trepidation about this. Otherwise, the idea of Doctor Strange going into Asgard and kind of being their sorcerer, or whatever you want to call it, it sounds kind of fun. It sounds kind of interesting. The team ups that we could possibly see with him in Asgard, and at Asgard's, I won't say beck and call, but aid, we'll say. And adding Loki into the mix as well, and kind of seeing those two interact, I think could be fun. So I'm definitely going to give it a shot. I'm a little cautious about it, but I am going to give it a potentially good, because there's definitely some potential here, and this could be a really fun story to read. Plus, I'm checking out all the One World Under Doom stuff, because I kind of like this whole story. So there you go, potentially good for me. And finally, we have Secret Six issue number 1. This is written by Nicole Maines with art by Steven Segovia. So the art's going to be good. Nicole Maines, everything that I've read that Nicole has written, I think has been decent. It hasn't blown me away, but it's been decent. It's been well written. It's been good character pieces. So in that, I'm confident. I love the concept of the Secret Six. I always have. And I love that we've got Catman back in the Secret Six here. We've got Deadshot. We've got Dreamer, of course. And we've got some interesting characters. I just meant because Nicole's writing it, of course, Dreamer's going to be in there. We got Black Alice, who I love Black Alice. And let's see, because I haven't read too much into this. John Kent and Jay Nakamura are there. They've discovered that Waller has somehow vanished from her cell, and they have no leads. And so they are kind of forced to create an alliance with these characters that I just mentioned to track down Waller. So that sounds like a really interesting concept to me. I love the team ups there. I like including John and Jay in this with these villains. I think that's going to be interesting to play with those dynamics and everything, and those character types, because you've got a Boy Scout with John. You got characters like Deadman and Deadshot and Catman that are definitely not Boy Scouts. So I think it could be a fun little playground. And so this is probably, of all these firsts, this is my most anticipated. And I'm going to give this one a potentially good as well. And I'm hoping it exceeds my expectations, because I love a good Secret Six book. So we'll see what happens with it, though. I am, kind of low-key excited about this one. All right, that's all the firsts for this week. I told you it was a shorter list this week, but we do still have a few of those non-firsts to talk about. So here we go. We've got Birds of Prey issue number 19. This is continuing the League of Assassins. They're attacking Black Canary, Sin, and Megara to try to find a bond through violence, it says here. They are bent on reacquiring sin. So now they've kind of surrounded, as we left off last issue, they've surrounded like the cabin. The team split up into two different uh, kind of missions. One mission was with John Constantine, and the other one was here. And now they've got them surrounded. So we're going to see the culmination of that. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. Juvenile issue number 4. They sent the boy away, or sent him to have surgery, and the girl tried to tell all the other kids there that they weren't actually sick, that they were being suppressed and these medicines were suppressing these abilities, and they don't believe her because she's kind of the weird girl and they didn't like her to begin with. So you got all that, and she was sent to surgery, and we're going to see how that all plays out. This has been an unexpectedly kind of fun series. I don't know. I don't know where it's going to end up, but I like the concept of it. I wish there was a little bit more progression each issue, but I am really enjoying the story and I like the characters in it. Then we have Tin Can Society issue number 6. They have discovered something last issue. They've discovered like the identity, who is Caliburn, who killed their friend, and now they have to deal with kind of what happened and what their friend actually did, and the repercussions of that. And now that is being brought upon them as well. So we're going to see how that story plays out. Batgirl issue 5. I like this. I like the story. Been a little repetitive, I admit, but I still like the story. I like her teaming up with her mom and everything. And at the end of last issue, she kind of resigned herself to the fact that she has to be more like Lady Shiva right now and less like Batman. And I think now we're going to kick it up a notch and see her kind of unleash a little bit, and maybe we'll kind of break the pattern that we've had for the first 4 issues. So we'll see going forward what this is like. Uncanny X-Men issue number 11. This starts the I believe this starts the hunt for Xavier. Yeah. So we are kicking off that story arc here, and I'm excited for the story. I obviously we're going to touch on this in all the X books, but I'm curious to see what exactly this is all about, how it's going to affect the different characters of the X-Men. So here for that one. And then the Ultimates number 10, Captain America and the Human Torch are going to find their old pal Namor. So we're going to see the Ultimate Universe version of Namor, and they're going to battle with the Red Skull gang to get to him. So fun times in the Ultimates as well. So that's all the books that I have to talk about. Some cool books coming out, even though it is a smaller week. Still some interesting reads that we're going to get. So I'm looking forward to all those. So if you enjoyed this show, if you like it, please give it a thumbs up. And you can hit that subscribe and notification bell so you don't miss any of the content on this channel, including this show, which you hopefully are enjoying each and every week. And of course, you can follow me across social media at Only Good Comics. Haven't really been posting there lately, but I'm hoping to get back to that soon. So yeah, check that out, or type in onlygoodcomics.com just to take you right back to this YouTube channel where we talk about only good comics. Until next time, thanks for watching. Take care. Keep reading those comics. And if you're a wrestling fan, watch Elimination Chamber. Bye. See you soon.